take a plane to another plane, to another plane, to another plane, bumping Baka not nice while I'm trapping in the rain.
Oh yeah, true.
It's not quite as not quite that level of production value, unfortunately, but the black and white aesthetic.
Well, you can speak better than him, anyways.
I really appreciate that, and that's one thing I got going for me over Mike Tyson. Not much other than that, though. That being said, welcome to episode 4 of Ezza Trips Balls, and the first ever satellite episode.
First.
Yeah, the first one. So we'll see how this goes. It probably won't be the last, as these times we're living in seem to be seeing no end at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to thank my guest today, one of my main inspirations, perhaps my main inspiration for even doing this. Mr. DJ DEEKatello, DEEK of the DEEKAST. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you coming on and being the first remote guest. Bear with me if there is any technical difficulties, but things seem to be going smooth so far.
Mm-hmm.
So we're chilling. So you are in quarantine right now? What's going on with you?
Mm-hmm. Or you want to be technical, I guess you call it isolation. I'm not
self-isolation. We're not okay, so you're not sick.
Yep.
Yeah.
But no, I got laid off from my job, and then shortly after that, Ford made the announcement of the non-essential business shutting down. So I work at a sign company, so they actually had to fully shut down after they had done a partial layoff, and then now they're just wait until this virus is over whenever they open up the floodgates again.
Yeah. So do you think that you'll be able to well, not just you, but you and people like you will be able to get back in the doors at the same places that had to shut their doors? Or, I imagine in some places it'll be more complicated than others.
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like probably for the most part, I think legally there, if people do get fired or lose their job or their ability to come back, I think there'll probably be some implications, right? Because I think the government has sort of nodded to that, like, don't worry about your job security and that kind of thing. But people do bring up, like, what if companies just, if they have to downsize for whatever reason, or if they do go out of business, then obviously your job's not going to be there, right?
They can't pay you anything at that point.
Right.
Yeah. It's.
I feel I'm lucky. I feel like I'll be able to. That's just me, though.
Yeah, and you've got certain skills, and I got lucky as well that where I'm working is apparently essential.
Right.
So I'm trucking away. Though at first we all felt like, oh, what are we doing here? Like, you know what I mean? We're not a public facing role, but there is a lot of us working in one place. But we try to space ourselves out and whatnot, and so it's been all right. But it's a little weird, like people are having totally different experiences of this thing. Like I feel like so much of the world is experiencing this just from in their homes, right? And that's like pretty. I imagine that's pretty scary for a lot of people, because they want to know what's going on outside. They're on the internet, they're on the radio, they're on the news, watching TV. For me, it's because I am still going to work every day. Like I see that, the traffic lights are still changing colors. Everything is still operating normally outside. There's still cars on the road. So there's fear there, but at the same time, it's a weird experience because everything's business as usual when it comes to going to work. And then, you can't look at your phone or turn on the TV, radio, internet, without everything being like, what the fuck you doing outside? Stay home, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's like, God damn, it's weird.
It is weird. And I know when they released the list of essential services, I think unanimously people were like, so what is closed? But I mean, I think
what's the difference, right?
Yeah. But I think if you really think about it, there's a lot of businesses that you're not even considering that are closed. Like I just mentioned ours, the sign company. People, it's not essential for these businesses out there to need a sign, I guess, right? We're sort of a business to business service that, there's probably a lot of stuff like that out there. I can't even think of any examples right now, but
Yeah.
yes, the list was very long, right? And it is a funny point that you made about marijuana being an essential service when 2 years ago it was an illegal service, right? You
Yeah.
mentioned something about that on your Facebook page, but it's true, and that is kind of an interesting aspect. But and people wondered why the LCBO was going to stay open. But I mean, that too, you got to think. You got to think a couple levels with these things, right? If you close the LCBO, that creates another underlying issue that we don't want to create more problems right now. We want
That's a whole
people to
lot of
be able
issues
to,
that could cause
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you all know what that might look like, right? Who knows? Robberies, smashed windows, like
Oh my
who
God.
knows?
And, bathtub fucking distilleries in people's basements.
There was a hospital in Waterloo I heard that was broken into for face masks. Like there's
Oh my
different things
God.
that people do when they have different levels of panic, right? And you want to control that as much as you possibly can.
That's why panic's a scary thing, but that's all, it's fucked because, the lack of panic was apparently our doom, and it's funny, like, I happened to start this show, 3 weeks ago, basically to the day. And it's
It's the
funny now.
Corona podcast. It's just the
Yeah,
Corona podcast.
yeah, it was just totally coincidental. But you go back and watch, and it's like the first episode. It's like, Tom Hanks has it. What a joke! Like
Yeah.
it's
Well, hey,
probably a
and yeah,
conspiracy.
no,
And then it's like the second episode. It's like, well, the virus is real, but they're also using it as a control system, and this and that.
right.
And then the third episode, it's like, shit's getting kind of a little bit scary. It's affecting everything now. Like, who would
Yeah.
have thought?
Yeah.
And now here we are, and I'm like, okay, I want to just be inside now. I'm getting a little
Dude,
scared.
that's how it works, right? And I think
Yeah.
that just shows all of us how much you sort of think you know and then don't know, right? Because I won't even mention any names, but there's people close to me I know that made it not a big deal at the beginning. It's just a cold, it's just a cough, whatever, blah blah blah, and it's not a meteor coming to the earth about to kill us all, but
No, it's not a
even
nuclear attack.
right. But as the weeks go on, you see that certain people are a week or two behind in what their sentiment, right? You'd even see that with different political leaders, right? Some of them are. We have the guy, forget his name, Bolsonaro, whatever his name is, in Brazil, and then also in Mexico. Certain countries that are telling their people, just go out, get it, herd immunity. The UK was going to try that at the beginning as well,
Oh
but then they
gosh.
went, okay, well, other countries are saying that's actually a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't just think, we're the smartest country on the planet. Let's actually fall in line with what the scientists and doctors are telling us we should do. And then, of course, Trump, is very much, seeming to change his tone recently as it gets worse. But at the
And then,
beginning, right?
this morning he changed it back again. He's like,
Oh
"Oh, we'll
yeah,
be good by Easter."
Easter, yeah, Easter, the economy's going to reopen. But
Yeah, the States is the scariest part of this whole thing to me, man. Like,
spring breakers, you see that? All
oh my
those kids
God,
down
because
in,
you've got, again, at least half the population that is never going to get tested, even if they do get a cough, because they don't believe it's anything serious, right?
no, and yeah, that's the interesting thing. And the only time will tell. We can sort of watch the numbers, right? And I know you have that page up too. Sometimes, probably maybe we shouldn't have it up as much as we do, but I got the list of
Everybody
cases
does,
here.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the U.S. is third with 62,000 as we speak.
I
Italy's at
want. It's at
75K.
62 now. Like, I
Yeah,
literally watched it cross 60,000 throughout the day today.
right.
And now 62,000. It's just it's wild, man. And we, I believe, crossed 3,000.
Yeah, I think we're at we're almost. I'm looking at 2792 right now.
Oh, okay.
Canada.
Pretty
But
close.
and I just read this morning a positive thing that I don't remember the exact source, but some doctor that was on Twitter sharing some data that said, our curve is already starting to flatten in Canada. If we keep up the isolation, his estimate was 1 to 2 weeks we'll see our peak, and the bulk of it will be gone in 6 weeks. Now that's again just one estimate from this doctor showing this one
Well, it's
graph.
definitely any bit of positive news from an actual
Yeah,
doctor at this point is good.
Yeah, and then compared to the United States, there's a lot of other factors there, bigger population and whatnot, demographics. But apparently their line is not that good on the graph, right? It's not going closer to South Korea's, it's going closer to, Italy's, which you don't want that. So
Yeah, and what fucks me up about Ontario is like you look at New York State, and I think that they're the worst state in America right now, I believe. And then Quebec's the worst province in Canada, I believe. and then Ontario's, right there in between those two populations, and yet somehow we're only looking at a lesser number, and
Yeah.
it just makes me think. And you already hear stories of people waiting for their results for days and days, or not being able
Up
to
to
get
7 days
tested.
in Canada, some of them.
So it's like, you have to imagine those numbers are a little bit off in Ontario, and I worry here in the Niagara region, because New York State again is right there, and our border
Yeah,
is
yeah.
very fluid, or at least has been up until a few days ago, pretty much.
Right, and the cases in Niagara are all travel related. I think as we speak, there's 7 the last time I checked, but
Yeah.
and they say we could handle 54, so that's not good. If I mean, you can't think the worst. I'm just saying, as far as prepare for the worst, they say we could handle about 54 at it concurrent at the St. Catherine's Hospital. So if we have 7, we don't want that number to go higher, of course, right?
Yeah, no,
And
we've got
hopefully
a
it
little
won't.
bit of breathing room, no pun
Yeah.
intended, but we don't, 54, we didn't want it going anywhere near 54.
No, but honestly, like, I have a bit of a positive view the last few days, just from everyone on social media saying, this is just the stuff, stay inside and all that. Like, I don't see a ton of people that are saying, screw this, let's go out, or any of that spring breaker Miami
Yeah.
type stuff.
Yeah, in Canada, I think we're responding to it pretty maturely for the most part. I think at first
Yeah.
we were all guilty of having that lax Canadian attitude of
Yeah, you want to have a little
whatever.
skepticism too, right? Of course, it's only natural. But as soon as you
Yep,
start seeing every nation doing the same things, you gotta.
yep, absolutely. And I think the States is what's really scary, and just oh man, I can't imagine them
It's a
responding to this
drama, man.
properly.
It's definitely a drama.
Yeah. No, that's really the part of this that scares me, just because so much of we rely on them economically too, right? And if shit really starts to go down there, like, we're gonna be fucked regardless how well we fucking flatten this curve, like,
Right,
even if we get rid of this virus, we're still gonna have a whole lot of economic shit to deal with if the states can't figure this shit out.
right. No, it's a lot of uncertainty. Um, I bought a few U.S. stocks recently, so that was, I bought at the peak. So I don't know if that, it's not so good for me at the moment. But yeah, I did throw a little bit more cash down when, we started to get some really down days, because I'm thinking I'm buying on a sale. So, but,
You might as well, right?
right. And I'll
Yeah.
get lucky, maybe, bought a couple Disney shares. That I
Yeah,
think was the
you
bottom.
gotta figure that they'll be all right. You gotta
We're all
figure that.
watching it. We're all watching Disney Plus, right? So
Yeah, you gotta figure. Yeah, it's pretty sweet, isn't it? The Simpsons on there is great.
now,
Like,
did they
that's so
censor
key.
The Simpsons, or is it full uncensored? Because I don't
So
know that.
far, I have not, in my experience, I've seen some pretty jokes that I thought would be censored
Right.
that were not, like, very, what you would call racist these days, Apu
Sure.
jokes that were
Yep.
kept in. A joke Homer makes about he hasn't seen a bong in years, and it actually shows the bong. Like, I was
Right.
expecting them to, like, show something else maybe, but it was fully the way it's supposed to be. So I haven't noticed anything, but I'm sure
Mm.
there's some people out there that will. I was upset that they took the Michael Jackson episode off, because it's like, come on, man.
Yeah. What was the reason for that again? Like,
Good.
litigious, or what?
I don't know. I don't know,
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
because he's a pedophile, I guess. But it's Disney, so
Yeah.
not to be a conspiracy theorist in the time of fucking pandemics and whatnot, but I'm sure
Yeah.
Disney's hands aren't completely clean on the pedophilia issue. So it's a
Well,
little
I
bit
mean,
holier
I don't
than
know
thou
about
of
that.
them.
I don't know, but I mean, their CEO did. He was named in the Harvey Weinstein case. I know that, as by one of the women that was assaulted. I believe he was named in that case. I'm
Yeah,
not sure what
and
happened.
ABC was shown to be complicit in covering up the Epstein story, and
Mm,
they're owned by Disney.
mm,
And it's like, why would Disney actively be trying to cover up a story about somebody
mm,
harming
mm.
children? So it's a little bit strange. But that being said, I feel like the Michael Jackson episode being cut out of The Simpsons on Disney Plus is a bit of an overcompensation on their part.
Not
To
cool, man.
to
It's a
be
classic episode.
anti-pedophilia. It's, what,
Classic.
you're being anti-comedy is what you're being. Um, but yeah, no, I remember like when cases in Ontario was like 20 something. And at that point, I was like, I had like a premonition in my mind. At the time, I'm like, you know what? I think in Ontario, it's going to hit like 120 something. And at that point, it was like a crazy number to say in my own
Yeah.
head. I was like, you know, what a prediction. And now here we are, like such a short time later, and it's like, you know, 600 or 700.
Yeah.
You know, it's just at this point, who could deny it? It's fucked, and it's affecting everything.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, when people bring up SARS, for those of you who are old enough to remember, I was just barely watching the
Yeah.
news back when that happened. But
I remember that.
yeah, we sort of remember it. We had the SARS fest. I was like, how did that work? Because you're supposed to not spread it. We had a SARS fest.
Yeah, you couldn't do that with this, could
It
you?
wasn't even remote back then. I think they all went to the show or something. But I don't think SARS was.
That's hilarious.
I was listening to one of the doctors from the lead guys from back then on SARS, and he was saying that, you know, it wasn't. That's why it was allowed to die off, because it wasn't as contagious as this thing is. That's why, I mean, we see these numbers are crazy, right? We got
Yeah, it just seems to be spreading like wildfire, which I guess is the whole issue.
yeah, and then it's just that thing where you just don't want to be that country that lets it get out of hand, which we see in Italy, and Spain's pretty bad too. And
Yeah, it looks like a lot of the countries around Italy are getting it pretty bad at this point.
yeah, Iran had a bad time with it too. Apparently, there's a lot of cultural factors, right? Like closeness of the culture, and
Yeah,
even
well,
just
I grew up in an Italian household,
go.
and let me tell you, there's you know, like I heard somebody say on the radio today, which is true, or maybe it was a podcast I was listening to, something. They're like, it's 3 generations of people living in one apartment,
Right.
and you know, one of them is over 80, one of them's over 60. You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
and they're all hugging and kissing when they come and go from the house.
Crazy. I think
So,
it's 20 something.
there's no exaggeration there.
No, I think it's like 25%. What is it? 25% of Italy is over 65. Something, some crazy number
Yeah,
like
they
that. I don't know,
got
it's like a big chunk.
crazy old population, so that has a lot to do with it. And you know, luckily, unfortunately, they're kind of ended up being the guinea pig, and we have a lot to learn from them. um but had they not gone through what they're going through, we probably wouldn't be taking a lot of the precautions that we're taking now, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, they seem extreme, man. I mean, the not only the economic stimulus stuff that just passed today, but the both in the U.S. and Canada, but just the reaction. I mean, I'm not saying it is extreme. I just mean it seems we've never seen these types of reactions, and even the political cooperation, right?
I
To
was just
see
gonna
to see
say
Ford and
that
Trudeau up there saying the same
it's
thing is
wild.
interesting. Yeah.
And it's been I've personally been impressed by it. I mean, you see a lot of people on social media or whatever still trying to make it into a partisan issue, and you know, there's always going to be some reason to grasp at that straw. But I haven't been looking at it that way personally. I've, you know, I've been watching the Ford speeches with the same state of mind that I'm watching the Trudeau speeches, and I'm impressed with how both those governments are handling it, even though everybody says it's too late or whatever. What they are doing now, I think, I'm sure there's a lot to debate about there, but from what I can see so far, it seems to be handling. They seem to want to do as much as possible without enforcing things
Yes.
by law, you know, which is really cool. And again, flies in the face of my conspiracy theorist self that says, you know, they want to enforce martial law and all that. You know, they're pretty much.
Why? Because they're sort of holding it back in a way, or like.
Well, there's even people saying like you should arrest people that are staying out, and they're going, "Hey, listen, guys, like we gotta fucking cooperate here." You know what I mean? Like we're in this together. And I think it was even Ford that said, he's like, you know, police are people too. Like they don't want to be arresting people for being out of the house. You know what I mean? Like we need to consider them and their safety as well. Like they don't want to have to approach people. So it's like if we can't all work together, like then what are we? You know? So that seems to be the attitude from both governments, that they want to enforce things by law as kind of a last resort, which I think is super cool, and that both, you know, the liberal and the conservative governments seem to be doing their job. And you know, even the conservatives kind of holding the liberals back from overreaching their power and whatnot is a good thing, you know. And you know, me being somebody who's liberal leaning, I want the conservatives who are in there to be doing shit like that and stopping the liberals from grabbing too much power in times like this.
Right, like Trudeau wanted to have unlimited taxing and spending until 2021 or some sort of thing like that. Like, and they're like, no. How about no?
Yeah, or not for that long at least,
So, yeah.
But I get why they wanted to do it, because it was just like, we get to go around Parliament so people get the money faster. But it was still, December 2021, and they're like, hold on a sec, like this won't be necessary past like September latest.
See, yeah, that's the thing, right? I guess when you're a politician, that's part of the job, right? That's you gotta, I mean, I think he said, I'm not trying to score political points or something like that in one of the speeches, but everything's got a bit of politics to it, and you want to bolster your position even in times of crisis, right? Sometimes more so in times of crisis, right? That's the whole thing, isn't that the libertarian thing? In times of crisis, the government takes more and more freedoms, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's when I want the government to, if they're ever going to take freedoms, to be in times of crisis,
Yeah,
and like, in my mind, in Canada, we get taxed so much so that when shit like this happens, we can get that $82 billion or whatever it is, and more to come, apparently. So
I think it's at 107 now. They upped it again.
Really? Holy
Every
shit.
day. This is the thing with the news, right? You got to find the balance between going crazy and watching everything, or sitting back and reading and listening to nothing. You have to, but it's so up to the minute that those of us who are inclined to pay attention to the news are getting our mind, like, I'm just dreaming about coronavirus and shit. Like Joe Biden got it in my dream.
It's fucked, right?
Right? Like, just different shit.
That's probably what's gonna happen. Could you imagine the fucking drama that will unfold if one of them got it? Oh
I really thought Trump was gonna get it or will get it. I know Bill Murray, I think, tweeted
he probably
like,
fucking
he's
has
gonna
it,
get
man.
it.
He's not gonna get tested. He thinks he's invincible.
Oh my god.
They're gonna have to fucking force him down to test him, man.
But once all the NBA players started getting it, so I saw people posting that like Space Jam clips. Because like in the Space Jam movie, I forgot this, but I guess there's a part where they have to shut the NBA down because of some whatever's happening to them, right? They think they're going crazy or whatever because of the Looney Tunes
the
guys
alien,
coming out.
the alien thing.
Yeah, but crazy times, man.
It's absolutely crazy. And again, who to thunk it, man? A few months back, when you first heard of this thing.
No, you're right about the fact that we were all sort of surprised. Most of us who are not experts in that, but the whole thing about I don't know how many people listen to this that are conspiracy minded, but like if anybody really does still think that Bill Gates either created this or predicted. I mean, yeah, he predicted it, but they've been predicting it forever. They've been telling us for a long time that this stuff's coming.
Yeah,
and we weren't exactly prepared. We're prepared to a degree, different countries to different degrees. But that's the thing. There's a barrier between politicians and scientists, and you hear that from people who work in the field of science all the time. That's the thing, is they're always trying to communicate better to the layman, to public, and to politicians. Like, look, you got to listen to this data we have that's showing X, Y, Z.
And there's a big language.
Like we're just saying, they just think of politics too much. They just, sometimes they don't think about that. But you got to be, whether left or right. All I know is that I will follow a politician if they listen to scientists. I don't care which side of the aisle it's on. I'm not a scientist myself or anything. I didn't do that great in science class, but like I believe in the tenets of science, of the scientific method, and sort of the truth.
It seems to work in most cases. That's definitely what you want, and especially in times like this, there's no question. Here you go, and there's no better example than our neighbors to the south right now.
Unfortunately, relax, bro.
You got people in power that ignore science, and then it just goes to show you that the citizens, just follow suit, man. Monkey see, monkey do. If they're getting told by their leader, and again, it's everyone's fault that everything he says is everywhere all the time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just got to ignore this fucking guy. You know what I mean? Like
a sideshow. Yeah, it's very much like enticing. Like we got to see what he said. We can make fun of it.
Is there a way that people just go around him and just like go strictly to who he's getting the medical advice from? Because whatever he's spitting out is not going to be what he's getting told. No. And I think that's the most dangerous thing about him, if anything, is just like, even the people around him. I'm assuming there are some that are well intentioned and scientific at crisis time like this, you know, you don't know what they're actually telling him, because whatever he's saying is not going to
Yeah.
be an accurate translation, most likely, you know. So it's like, what the fuck is actually going on? And then there's so many camps of people again, created by that. Like, you've got a whole bunch of people that think they have it, that are waiting to get tested or waiting for results, and then you've got just as many people that may have it that will never get tested because they don't believe it's a fucking thing.
Hmm.
um, and that seems pretty dangerous to me, you know, because if those people start traveling around, because there's only so many confirmed cases, and you've got all these people that could potentially have it that aren't even getting tested.
Hmm.
Holy fuck, man, that's a lot of people, and they, you know, they're more densely populated than we are, that's for sure, and they move around a lot, it seems. So fuck.
Yep. Yep. And then, of course, the timing, right? We have students coming back from school to their parents, as well as the weather is getting warmer. So people are going to want to start coming outside, especially the ones who are on the fence or don't believe in this stuff. They're going to start wanting to go outside even more now that the weather's getting better. So, but again, then it goes to, okay, we don't know how this thing behaves in the warm weather, right? Some people, because viruses, apparently, when you want to store a virus, you keep it in frozen for years and years and years. It'll last virtually forever if it's frozen. But the warm weather could negatively affect a virus like this. But
Yeah, and I heard that sunlight, like ultraviolet light, is a disinfectant essentially, and any surfaces outside that could
yeah,
potentially, in this kind of wet, damp, gray, shitty weather,
right,
that could potentially be transmitted outdoors. Like, once you get ultraviolet light shining through
yeah.
and no clouds and blue skies, most of that is going to be killed, you know. So at that point, it'll be indoor situations that you really have to worry about.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing too is that this is all new to everybody, right? So we're all still researching it, and there's been certain things like permanent heart and lung damage for some recovery people who've recovered, and we don't know the long-lasting effects. We don't know exactly, can you get it again, and all these things are sort of up in the air, right? These different questions that are still
Yeah, that's
popping out.
fucked.
So,
I guess
you
the
know,
can you get it again thing is a really scary thing, right? Like, you would
yeah,
hope, you know, our natural, I think, like our, you know, naturally we think like the chicken pox or whatever, you get it once and then after that you're immune to it, kind of thing, or
hmm, hmm,
like a lot of diseases or viruses, right?
yeah,
Um, because I've heard so many people say, even at work, and places like that, say, "Oh, I had this thing in fucking January or December, like I was coughing so hard I couldn't stand up and blah blah blah." You know, and then they think they're not going to get it again because they may have had it before.
hmm.
Um,
I don't even think that's accurate though, because I think all the cases we're seeing are travel related, and I think that it's people who have. I mean, I guess maybe potentially if you were in contact with someone who had traveled outside the country, I guess that could be true. But
well, a lot of people in Canada travel in January, February, right? So, like, for me, for example, I was in Mexico when I got the news alert that there was an outbreak in China.
mm.
And you know, not to be racial, but my first thought was I was dancing with some Chinese people at the disco last night. You know,
Yeah,
and I was fucking coughing up a lung, you know what I'm
right,
saying?
right,
That's
right.
just, you know, you get sick when you travel and stuff like that. But again, not to say that that's a thing, but
Yeah, I
who
guess
the fuck
they would
knows,
have
right?
they would have to have come exactly from Wuhan in the right time period and such. Like,
Exactly. The odds are probably pretty slim,
yeah,
but when you hear that, when you start to hear things like, "Oh, it was much worse in China much earlier than they said it was," or they were
right.
suppressing the numbers for a long time and stuff like that, you start to think like, "Well, fuck, there's a huge population of Chinese Canadians, you know, that are probably going back and forth all the time, right?" So, especially
Hmm.
in the cold weather, you know. So January and February are super big months for traveling,
Hmm.
for Canadians. So I don't know. It's weird. It's hard to say, man. There could be some truth to people that say they had it earlier, but I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll have to wait and
No,
see what happens.
yeah. I just think we just got to keep following the directives from our mom and dad, the good old government of Canada.
Yeah, good
Uncle
old mom and
Trudeau.
dad. Yeah, no, you know, he's doing his thing, man. He's doing his thing.
Yeah.
Man's wife's got it, you know.
Is she recovered, or what's the situation there? I don't know if I've
I know she
followed up on.
tested positive and She's in self-isolation, I think, still. It's
Hopefully
crazy
a mild
how,
case, yeah.
like, what's wild is the passing of time through this thing. Like, when I think, like, it seems like it was so long ago that we found out about, like, Trudeau's wife having it, and it's like, well, she hasn't even been through 2 weeks yet, you know what I'm saying? Like,
No, yeah.
it's so fucked.
It's
so
like the
fucked.
Terrence McKenna kind of definition of how time unravels. Like it's all this information just chocked full into these days and make everything seem, yeah. So like a day is like a year, and we're just getting bombarded with information left and right, like nonstop, pretty much.
That just kind of blew my mind a little bit.
It's crazy. Like I think he used to talk about that, about just
Yeah.
the intertwinedness of the universe, and that we get more and more packed with data, of course, and social media and all this stuff, news up to the minute and everything. It's crazy, and this is the type
It's
of event
insane, isn't it?
or that's perfect for that to emerge. This is sort of just like
And
nonstop flood of information directly into our brains, and I'm
and
like I said, I'm
everybody's
dreaming
focused
about it.
on the same thing right
The
now,
same
right?
thing. No one, yeah. I always kept
This
making
is
the
mind
stupid
blowing. This
jokes
is
at
fucking
work.
with me already, bro.
I just
We're not even far in here. I'm,
I
I'm
know.
fucking mind blown right now.
No, it's
Because, like, yeah, you think about, early in human evolution, how much data were they taking in a 24-hour period? Like,
like
not very much.
two bits. 2 bits.
Compared to, and as time went on, there's more and more and more and more, like, sources of data and things you need to worry about and things you need to think about and things going on, and, like,
How are they going to do it in the future? There's going to be like
oh,
it's the Matrix. There's going to be direct
that's
lines just
fucked.
in the
We
back
have
of
to
your
be
head.
coming. We have to be coming close to, like, the Terrence McKenna had a
The
whole thing, man.
eschaton.
Yeah, like, but he said it was going to be in 2012, and we're past that now. But,
Yeah.
like, holy fuck, like, if that's like an estimate in the
Yeah.
grand scheme of things, we're still kind of close to 2012, and, like,
hmm
shit's getting pretty wild,
What do you
man.
call
But
it? He called it the transcendental object at the end of time, whatever
that's
that
it,
means.
yeah. And he had a few, and he had why is the, like, zero event, I don't know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
there's
No,
different
time wave
names for it
zero.
that are
Time
coming to
wave
my
zero.
head, yeah. But
Yeah.
the that event that we're heading toward or whatever, um
And that could be, if you want to be skeptical. I mean, okay, could be bullshit. Maybe we just kind of keep
well, he
complexity
did,
just kind of keeps
he did a
going, and
lot
then
of psychedelics, but
he did a lot, and he had a brain tumor. Wait, wasn't it a brain tumor that ended up taking his life?
I believe it was I think it was something like that, yeah.
Rest in
But
peace.
fuck,
I would get a tat of Terrence. If I started tatting like people, like different cool people, portraits and shit, I would start with the Terrence.
he's one of the best, man. He's one of the best ever.
So
Really,
cool.
really got me going on a path, that's for sure. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you and a lot of people like us and
hmm
around our age who, and God bless whoever fucking loaded up the internet with his shit,
They're like the
because
prophets, eh? There's like these guys in the internet that just kind of started
it's
emerging,
wild, dude. It's
like guys that
wild.
we could have read about from past decades if we were into it, but we just happen to be that internet age.
Like, even Alan Watts, dude. You know how long
Yeah.
I listened to Alan Watts before I
Mhm.
found out that he'd been dead for decades?
Right.
You know what I mean? I was like, who the fuck is loading up the internet
Yeah.
with this shit?
Yeah.
And I'm finding it, you know what I mean? And
hmm
I was like, 18, 19, didn't care about shit, but, like, girls, rap,
Weed.
and weed, you know what I'm saying? And I'm getting all this fucking timeless knowledge,
That
you know
was
what I'm saying?
amazing. It was
Wisdom from
amazing.
Alan Watts and Terrence McKenna, and this is even before, like, things like Joe Rogan podcast, which is where a lot of people hear about this shit and these people now. It was just coming at me from the algorithms,
That
man.
was the same with me. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
kind of a little bit before the Rogan stuff, but that made me more attracted to the Rogan podcast because he did
yeah, me
talk about
too.
all those guys.
And talk
Yeah, it
about
was like what it was like the
psychedelics and
blogosphere. It was like the kind of Tumblr and Twitter verse, or what was it? That it was just out there, right? Blogs and shit, YouTube,
yeah, it was like
right?
websites and, like, I don't even know what it was. Yeah, it was YouTube a little bit for sure. YouTube had definitely a lot different content in its earlier days, that's for sure. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I tried, and yeah, it was like blogs and, like, I don't even know, bro. I
yeah.
try to
Just
think of what the
people.
internet was before social
It
media,
was
and
kind of loose. It was just like they had YouTube,
it
what
was loose. It was
you,
loose.
and then there was a lot of blogs mostly. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
Fuck, man. God damn. Yeah,
So
everybody focused on one thing at once is like there's got to be something to that, right? Like this hasn't really happened with this many people ever, I don't think.
no, I think it'll make people a little smarter once this is all gone, because I think people are all these types of events, this one being a really big one, that just kind of bring you closer to, okay, I got to figure this out. Can I read a few quick articles on the science behind it? You learn about something that you didn't know about before, like how viruses work or whatever. So when this is all done, we're going to be a little more, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Both with maybe the immunity and a vaccine, as well as our minds are going to be more prepared to handle this kind of thing. We can teach our kids better about maybe working from home and social distancing and all this, maybe that's going to be more a part of our society, like just a little bit more.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, just a little bit would be great. I was gonna say that that's one thing that kind of scares me is like I don't want to live in a world where, like, if this thing goes on for too long, like where
Yeah.
we have this in our minds that restaurant dining rooms are icky and clubs are icky and bars are icky and fucking, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to
Bars
live in
are icky. Clubs are
they,
icky.
well,
You ever try to dance at a
clubs
club?
and bars are icky.
You
They weren't the
gotta you
best
gotta
examples.
grease your shoes up before you dance at a club because the floors are so sticky.
Grease them shoes before you cut that rug. It's just I don't want to reemerge into this world where and now everybody is like all grossed out by each other and by human contact and stuff.
Right, right.
And to a degree, sure, we need to improve our hygiene habits, I
Yes.
think, more importantly, right? Like cleaning the environments around us as we come and go, and cleaning our clothes as we come and go from the house, and our hands and our faces, and not putting your hands in your mouth and shit like that, like all that stuff people are going to be way more conscious of, which is great.
Oh, what about not eating random meats from a wet meat market in Wuhan?
Yeah, no more eating bats. Did you know why they do it? Because I found out why they do that.
Okay, well, let me guess, and then you can tell me what you found out, because I'll admit I'm very ignorant on this, and I don't know a ton about it. I thought that I was under the impression that a lot of rural places in places like China don't have a lot of money, but they do have access to these different meat markets where these people are trying to make a living, and they're selling these random weird animals. They don't have a lot of sanitary conditions and stuff, and they just pile them on top of each other. And these people eat this stuff because they don't have that many other options. Is that false?
Yeah, well, that is true, but the part that I wasn't aware of that to me made it slightly more acceptable is that along with not having money and not having normal infrastructure, they don't have refrigeration.
Yes,
So
yes, that's
there
a
is
good
no
point.
way to eat meat safely unless you basically see that animal get killed, because otherwise you don't know how old the meat is, you don't know where it's been. They have no way of properly
Okay.
preserving meat. So that's why the idea that I heard is that, yeah, the only way that you can really safely eat meat in some of these really poor rural areas is to see the animal basically killed, or to know that it was freshly killed, so that you're not eating old or tainted meat or meat that hasn't been preserved properly, because they don't have fridges and freezers and shit
That's an
like that.
interesting point. That's very interesting.
We kind of take for granted that we know that the meat we're going to go buy has been preserved properly.
Totally.
Not that because I also have seen footage of the Wuhan. Oh God, man,
Dude, it's just not, let me just say one thing, and I'll just parrot Sam Harris because I listened to his podcast recently on with him and Paul Bloom. They're talking about this, and he said, you know what? It's like bioterrorism, and the people should be held accountable. Like the government of China needs to figure this shit out and not allow this
Yeah.
stuff to happen. Whether they have to feed these people, bring them into the cities, give them some money. I don't know what the solution is, but you can't be doing this because the whole world's affected.
It is
You guys gotta
really
stop.
fucked.
Like,
It is really. Could you imagine if that was going on in the Kensington Market in
no,
Toronto?
and it doesn't matter what race or where these people are from.
At all. No.
Wherever these things are happening, we need to stop them because this is not cool. You're shutting down the whole world.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah, it's so China. I hear a lot, and again, there's so many people that have so many different opinions on China and stuff, and it's just like I've heard some really scary shit, and it's like, to me, like at the same time, it's like if they are willing to do some of the shit they do to fucking what it sounds like anyway to Muslims and Buddhists and people who are trying to hold on to religions and heritages and shit like that.
Yeah.
Then what do they give a fuck about people eating? I know it's true they end up shitting on the whole world, unfortunately. But
Well,
before
even that,
this,
they've been affected too, right? They had the stock market crash, and I
yeah,
think
it's
they're
like it's
rebounding a bit now. But yeah, it's not like it doesn't affect them too,
they
right?
just don't seem to value human life whatsoever, you know.
I don't know. I know they value the state, right? They value. That's why they don't want these religions, because it's all about the state. You got to worship the state. It's their style of whatever you call it. Their mix of communism and capitalism. You know, whatever their wacky socialism with Chinese characteristics or whatever they call it. I forget what it's called. Something like that.
Wacky socialism with Chinese characteristics.
I
think
might
is
have
a
added
good...
the word wacky in there, but I think it's something like that, right? It's
Yeah, it's it's like corporations that are owned by the government, I guess. I don't know. It's like capitalism, but it's owned by the government still.
mhm,
You
mhm.
know, yeah, it's strange. I don't know. I just don't like the 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 scoring and the facial recognition cameras and like
Yeah.
it's Google that helped them build that shit. You know.
Yeah, you know the one argument I heard of in sort of a positive light as far as Google going into China and whatnot, or other companies, cooperating with the government, is you'd rather have them have a foot in the door versus not being involved at all, because these companies that say China could sort of run it all its own way in that authoritarian way, where at least if you're cooperating on some level, you have a bit of influence where you can try to get in that more democratic style into things, instead of having these in China, a lot of the sites are blocked, right?
Yeah,
Stuff
yeah.
like that. I don't know.
I mean, I hope that that's the case, but
You know.
it seems just as likely that it's money, and you know what I mean. They want to get their foot in the door because
Yeah.
China's just going to copy the technology anyway, and they might as well capitalize off their own technology rather than just have it blatantly plagiarized anyway, and then they're not making any money off it,
They definitely plagiarize things, but
Yeah, they don't
um,
give a fuck about what's it called?
copyright
Intellectual property.
property. Yeah, but they're
Yeah.
always trying to add that in, I guess, with these trade deals, right? They're trying to be like, you guys can't just copy, like, come on. But
Yeah.
that's what they do. That's how they make all this shit, and that's we want knockoff versions of something. Well, you want to knock off Apple charger, get it from China. But by the way, don't do that, because I did that a couple times, getting those cheap off Amazon, the MacBook chargers.
Yeah,
They're
no,
not good.
that's
They
bad
just
news,
die.
isn't it?
No,
Yeah.
it's bad enough.
And your real MacBook charger was probably also made in China.
Probably just with a
Just
little more oversight.
Yeah, it was a couple sweatshops over.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more oversight at that one. Guys in white coats and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This episode brought to you by Google and Apple, as I record this on a MacBook and upload it to YouTube.
Totally, man.
So let's hope we're allowed to continue this once the coronavirus turns this all into a martial law,
Mhm.
totalitarian, Google run,
Yeah.
1984 wacky Chinese flavored socialism.
Yeah. Marshall Mathers law.
Marshall Marshall Mathers law. He had to clear up that martial law is not an album that's going to happen.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah, because some people said that it was going to be, because somebody was trying to say martial law is coming, like actually try to say that
Yep.
martial law is coming. They misspelt Marshall, like the name Marshall,
Oh,
and then a
yeah,
bunch
yeah.
of
So you're like,
Eminem
no.
fans took that as if that person had inside information on a new Eminem album, even though he just put out
Jesus.
an album called Martial Law. And then
Oh my
Eminem
God.
had to come out and say, guys, there's no martial law. It's not happening.
No.
Yeah, I always, as a kid, thought he should do one called martial arts. But
Yo.
right?
I think it'd be too low hanging fruit, though. People would be like,
It would.
come
And
on.
then he'd be appropriating two cultures at the same time, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
No, one is enough. One is enough, especially in these days and times.
So did we scare everybody with the Corona talk? Should we
I think I had to have a more grounded Corona talk on this podcast because the earlier episodes were a little bit more
More up in the air,
skeptical.
uh,
Like we don't know what is this fucking thing now. I think the information's out there, and again, if you don't promote social distancing, you will be shamed off the internet anyway. So.
you will be shot or hung.
Yeah. So
Just playing.
yeah, and everyone will be happy about it apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's all sorts of good things going on, and I think I was talking to people who had to work from home for a little bit, saying like they're playing like Scrabble again and stuff. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, you got to look at the
People are doing
positives, right?
things.
Yeah, we'll figure this out. Stocks will come back. The jobs will come back. It just might be a while. We got to prepare that this is not going to be maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks. Some people are saying 3, 6, 9 months, right? We got to be prepared for just in case a long period of
Yeah.
time. But we should have this skill. We should be able to function inside and outside. We should be very adaptable as a society in this modern age. We should
Oh, holy
be
fuck!
prepared
As
for
if
these
we
things.
don't have enough fucking sources of entertainment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hours and hours and hours of entertainment at your fingertips at any
Mhm.
point. Not that you just want to sit around all day, but
No, but even if it's an audible book or something, work on some hobbies or whatever. Just
yeah,
like you said, work from home, whatever. There's benefits to certain things. It's not all bad.
yeah. We will make it through this. We will make it
Mm-hmm.
through this. Absolutely. So Survivor, man. Let's.
Mm.
I don't have too many people I can have a conversation with about Survivor.
Well,
So,
as you can see, I got the
uh,
belt here. I got my Jeff Probst face on a
what is
belt here.
that?
That's
What the
my
fuck is
Survivor
that?
Pool chat, or so my Survivor Pool
That
winning
looks
belt.
amazing, dude. That's incredible. It's like
I
laser. Look at that laser cut Jeff Probst, man. It's like a photograph on
Yeah, I
there.
won $800 in our pool last season.
Who won you that? Oh,
Um,
what the fuck was his name? Tommy?
yep.
You had
Teaching time with Tommy. I thought it was going to go to that other guy.
I didn't think Tommy was gonna win.
No, and then the jury just sprung it on us, and I was like, okay, I'll
Yeah,
take
well,
it.
nobody liked the other guy, Dean. He made all those big
Yeah,
plays
he
toward
pissed him
the
off,
end, but
right?
yeah, he was a bit of a douchebag. Yeah,
I mean, hard player though. Like you win the challenges,
yeah.
you should be the winner, but it's all about the jury too.
No, it is, and that's the biggest. That's what makes a survivor to me. Is that element is you can be you can be a great strategic player and do all sorts of awesome fucking moves, but if you rub the wrong people you got to be able to read people in a way that that the person you're screwing over ultimately will respect that it was a game and still vote to give you that $1,000,000. That you got to consider every move with that in mind, or you're not really playing the full game.
No, you got to have an all-encompassing game. You got to think about the jury. Jury's huge. Jury's like almost the main thing. It's like 50% of the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I've been fucking kind of obsessed, to be honest, since Winners at War was announced. So I've been watching. There was a big gap in my Survivor fandom. Like I watched when I was a kid for a few years, and I didn't watch for seasons and seasons and seasons.
Yeah,
And then
same
I
here.
I
Yeah.
popped back in at Cambodia, Second Chance.
Okay.
So there was a lot in between I didn't see. So I decided to watch Heroes vs. Villains,
Mhm.
which was season 20, I believe. It was kind of the second All-Stars season.
Mm.
And fuck, I forgot. Oh yeah, Russell, big fucking legendary player, and he
Yeah.
played super super hard the whole time. And I had never seen him play before because I missed that whole run of seasons. And but people had told me, oh, Russell was the best player, blah blah blah. He got ripped off. And he did play a fantastic game, but he didn't consider the jury at all. And even and he ends up losing in the finals because the jury didn't want to give him $1,000,000 because he,
Mhm.
blatantly disrespected them all. Like you can lie and stuff, but I think everyone understands you're going to tell a lie or two if you're playing Survivor. But the disrespect in the way of doing it, where you throw on that little extra bit of fuck you in your lie, he did to pretty much everybody. And then they're at the reunion show, and he's going, "Well, I don't care about that part of the show. I just want to play as hard as I can play while I'm on the island." And it's like, and Jeff Probst is
Not
going,
win?
"That's not Survivor, man. That's not Survivor. Survivor is the people that you played with are going to decide, and that's what makes winning Survivor like a special thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like anything else in that way."
My picks this season are Natalie and Tyson, who are both voted off, so they're on the exile, whatever you call it.
Yeah, it must be refreshing though to have that edge of extinction.
It's
happening.
just a lifesaver, because if you get voted off, you still got a chance.
You got a glimmer of hope, man. You're not screwed yet.
But I got a leak from. Can I say this leak that might not be true, but might be true on the podcast?
How deep of a leak is it, man?
Okay, all it says is this is pertaining to me, so I'm just going to mention this one: Survivor Winners at War. Natalie Anderson makes major comeback. Well, which I've been predicting, because obviously I got to be bullish on my chick, right?
Well, you know what? It's a major possibility.
It says recent rumor points towards her Survivor journey being far from over. An insider who correctly leaked Sandra Diaz's blind side says that Natalie is one of the 2 Edge of Extinction returnees alongside Tyson, who's my other guy. So that's a double positive rumor leak for me.
Oh man!
So both my picks might get back in, and then Natalie's like a big favorite. I actually picked her because I went on the internet and I saw who people were saying they thought was going to win, and Natalie was like a overwhelmingly.
Well, a very, very strong player. And then I never saw her play, but she had a cool story with she played with her twin sister or something,
Yes.
and her twin sister got voted out first, and then she ends up winning the game.
Just rocked it, yeah.
So they bookended the whole season, and then this season she gets voted out first. You know what I mean? So now she can have that whole what goes around comes around, come back, and potentially win the game. I could definitely see her coming back. Tyson coming back. What is in his favor is that most of the other people on Edge of Extinction are pretty old. You know what I mean? It's all the old people that got voted out. So if it is some sort of physical challenge to get back into the game, then certainly you got the best 2 in your pool for potential Edge of Extinction people to come back.
Also, what you mentioned about the jury, Natalie's hanging out with these Edge of Extinction people who are going to be on the jury, right? So she's
right.
Wait, is that true? Right? There's going to be
no, the Edge.
So she's making friends, at least
there in the first Edge of Extinction season.
Dude, could be the perfect concoction to get me back in. And by the way, I just want to say on this podcast, if I win my $1,000 pool this season, I'm donating $100 to Rupert Boneham's Center for Youth program. Rupert Boneham from season 1, I believe.
Rupert,
the big burly guy with the big beard.
Real life Hagrid.
Yes, the real life Hagrid.
Yeah, so he was just in the Heroes and Villains season I just watched.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I love
got
Rupert.
some sort of program, so I'm gonna donate $100.
Hey, $100. And sorry, what's the program for again? What's that go
It's
toward?
for, I don't remember what it's called. But it's Rupert Boneham's youth center, something like that. It's like
sweet. Rupert's got a youth center, baby.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Hey, very noble of you, man. So you DEEK stands to win $900. And then some lucky
or I guess minus my input too, which was $100. So maybe I walk away with $800 in that case.
Are you rethinking giving that first 100 away to Rupert's Youth Center?
Rupert's Youth Center. I'll be fine with 800, man.
800's a pretty nice amount to win. Not playing Survivor, but playing Survivor,
especially in an economic downturn.
Yeah, economic downturn indeed. So yeah, let's stop the Survivor talk before we get into too much detail, because there is an episode tonight, and this As It Trips Balls episode will not be airing till Saturday.
True.
So shit's gonna get a little off there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about your creative endeavors, man. You do a few different things, and that's kind of some stuff I wanted to talk to you about. You have the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You have DJing, you're a producer, you're a graphic designer, visual artist. Fuck, man. What, in your, I guess I'll start with this. In a time like this where you don't have to go to work, you don't have to do a job, what do you gravitate toward when you're feeling like being productive? What's the like, because you do so many different things, right? Like what would be the first thing you wake up in the morning you want to do? What would it usually be?
Well, I mean, I gotta be totally honest and just say, like, I wish I was leaning more into those creative endeavors, but I've been really obsessed with gaming lately. So I'm
Okay.
just like going hard in the paint with Overwatch. See, but Overwatch, there's a lot of skill. There's so many different characters to play, and there's so many different arcs. So I would argue that that's even, you know, it's a skill in of itself. But
Yeah, it's a whole, yeah,
as far as all
it's
the
a
creative
craft.
things, I'm trying. I just signed up to Splice. You know that
Is
Splice.
that video editing?
No, what's it called? Splice. What am I thinking of? It's like sounds and drum packs and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I
Audio.
always thought it was kind of BS. But I know Murder Beats just dropped a pack on there today and stuff. So I Murder. So I signed up just to see. Maybe it'll inspire me to keep making beats. But I think music is the thing that creatively is always in the forefront of my mind. At least, like if I am gonna go do something creative, I just like it's one thing where I'm always wanting to top my craft, right? Like top the last thing I made, like make something better than something you can nod your head to. That's always been like a struggle of mine because I make such weird music. Sometimes people call it video game music,
It
but
is very video gamey, yeah.
you could probably even say in your own music, like we can all see a progression from 5, 10, 15 years ago where you started,
Oh
and
yeah,
it just kind of didn't make sense, and the beats were wacky, and then now it's like
it's a little
getting
out of
tighter,
pocket.
and
Yeah.
yeah, but that's just cool to just kind of progress. I think so. Probably music is the most fun thing, or like the thing that I think about the most.
So what about like so that as far as making beats, like lately you've been doing, well, you just did a like a quarantine mix. So you've been doing a lot of DJing, both like live stuff and doing a mix like that.
Yeah.
Does that fall in that same category as music for
Uh,
you? Like,
Kind
or is
of. I
that
do
something
really. I
different?
really enjoy for the right crowd or the right gig. I really do love DJing, but because I'm not like a touring DJ or something, a lot of the gigs I do are more just to pay the bills and stuff, and events and just like weddings and stuff like that. But when I do get the right gig that comes along, that's like a little creative, or the crowd is really sort of my crowd, and I can really play to them. Like I love doing that. Like if I get to play like a free form hip hop set, ever, that's super dope. I just like trying to be different from other DJs and playing stuff that makes people go like, whoa, not just the standard shit you hear all the time.
Yeah, no, I mean that's why whenever I can, when I see that you're playing somewhere and I'm not working, I
Like
go
we have some
because
fun, don't we? When you
I'm like
come out and
every
see me,
time I'm like, yo, Deek's gonna at least play 5 or 6 songs within his mix that are like specifically because we walked in the room.
yeah, yeah, for
And
sure.
I'm like, so it's gonna be fucking hype. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So you read your audience, man. So that's what it's all
Hmm.
about. I mean that's a craft of its own as well.
Hmm.
And that chill quarantine mix like that you know what I mean, that was beautiful, man. The sequencing on that and
Nice.
the different genres that you pick from and whatnot, like
Yeah,
it's
try
just
to be
very.
different genres, and then a lot of like different slower tempos, and kind of even the lyrics. Kind of like a lot of the lyrics are related to stuff
Yes.
that's going on right now.
Yeah, it's great, man. Yeah, you had Tupac changes on there,
Yep.
which is magic. That song gets more and I've always said this, it gets more relevant as time
Every
goes on.
time you listen, yeah, that's so true.
It's really fucked up.
Timeless,
It's
timeless.
actually scary. Yeah, it's timeless, man.
Hmm.
For a song that was from like the 90s, um, who could have possibly predicted what we've seen since? Yet you hear the lyrics in that, and it's like bang on.
Yeah, you can play that for any age person, and they like that. You can play
But
that for an
oh
80-year
yeah,
old dude, and they don't. That's just a good song.
yeah. I put that among the one of the best rap songs ever made. It's as far as like, and I
True.
like to when I make like lists and stuff like that, I like to pick like universally. I could go ahead and make a bunch of obscure choices, but I would like,
Yeah.
if I'm making a list, I'd like people to be able to know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah. Nas
Um,
Ether, or like like
yeah. So Changes is one that I'll always throw up there as like one of the best rap songs ever, like lyrically, and it's always one of my main. Okay, so here we go. Tupac or Biggie?
oh, for me,
Yeah, for you.
oh,
Let's go.
Tupac always. I
Yeah, me
always.
too. Changes is one of the main examples I bring up in Tupac being better lyrically. Because a lot of people who argue for Biggie will say, "Oh yeah, Pac like had better content or whatever," but like Biggie's a better rapper and had better lyrics. It's like, no, the fuck, Biggie did not. Okay,
No. I mean, they weren't conscious. They weren't like socially relevant lyrics. I mean, they were all about party and bullshit.
yeah, and even like rhyme wise and shit, like,
Pretty
um,
straightforward. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, Biggie had a dope voice and a dope flow, I think, and just kind of
dope voice, dope flow. Yeah, he had a different style from everybody, I think, in New York at the time. Um, and he set himself apart that way. But yeah, like there are people adamant that Biggie's a better rapper than Tupac. It's like, get the fuck. There's not
no.
any category of rap critique is Biggie better than Tupac in my mind. And I love Biggie, you know what I mean? But maybe you could say his voice is better, but I wouldn't even say his voice is better because he doesn't like Tupac's voice actually changes from song to song depending
Yeah.
on the emotion he's trying to fucking get across, whereas
Yep.
Biggie's voice is the same all the time. And it's great, but it's always pretty much the same. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you would probably admit too that they're like two sides of the same coin. Like they play their role in hip hop history, and they're for
Yes.
different things slightly, but they obviously were friends, and there's a whole story of their
It
they were
really is all about it's a
contemporaries.
great story, right? It's a
Yeah,
great fucking
yeah.
story.
We don't have time for it now, but if you guys ever want to Google it,
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Tupac and Biggie, but it's a pretty cool story. There's probably more documentaries about Tupac and Biggie, and both separately and together, and the topics of their murders, different various budgets of documentaries. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? There's probably at least 100.
Hmm.
I would say easily. I mean, just the time growing up in the big DVD era.
Hmm.
There was so many Tupac and Biggie DVDs.
It's one of those things from the '90s that just like man, because you just wonder what they would have done if they would have stuck around. Like what they probably would have done like a collaborative album.
Yeah, they would have had to because it was such a big thing, right? Like,
Yeah, but I think Pac was even starting like some sort of like ending the beef scenario. Like he was starting some sort of label or group, or had like ideas like that before they both got killed. And you always wonder like they probably would have squashed the beef, right? Because you see that a lot more nowadays, like all the East West stuff. You got. I remember when Diddy did the song with the Dog Pound Gang, Bad Boys and Dog Pound Gang did this tune together on one of the Dog Pound albums, and it was you're like, cool, man, this shit's that's like
yeah,
solidified. You do a track together, like you're on the same team now.
you're good now. Yeah, and I think that the internet has killed a lot of the regional fighting. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
who cares if you're
Mm-hmm.
from the south or you're from the east or you're from the west? Like, we
It's more
all,
one-on-one now, or like crews or
yeah.
something, like little beefs that get over in a few days. It's rap beef is stupid in 2020. Like
Oh
it's
man, it's
so done.
scary,
It's so
man.
old now. I don't care if it's 50 or which rapper has a beef. I mean, the MGK and Eminem stuff's kind of funny.
Oh,
Some of
at least that some good music came out of that, or so, debatably, but I guess some good battle raps come out of that. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, but
they
don't you
they
just get
definitely.
tired when you hear another story about a beef? Like, don't you just like, oh, come
Yeah.
on,
Oh, totally, totally. And I
let's
didn't
move
even want
past.
Eminem to be participating in that. The guy is pushing 50 for God's sake. You know what I'm saying? It's
We
just
need to
like
protect him.
it's ridiculous. Do your goddamn thing. I did like his new album, but um, yeah, I know. What's funny, I think about like when I was 12, 13, and really, really starting to get into rap and get into hip hop and study the older stuff and the whole lineage of how it came to be what it came to be. Um, like I think about it now, and like Tupac's death and Biggie's death were only like 5, 6, 7 years from when I was discovering them and finding out about them, right?
Hmm.
And at that time it was like such a big, like, though these two rappers died, like they got shot to death, like, because over music, like,
Hmm.
and then it, like, you had a laundry list in your head of the dead rappers. It was like you got Tupac, you got Biggie, you got Big L, you got Big Pun, you got fucking Jam Master Jay.
Right.
You know what I mean? There was all this honor being paid to the dead rappers, and it was
Hmm.
there's constantly, like I said, documentaries and TV programs and references to them and stuff like that. And they were like these fucking gods, right?
Hmm.
now in rap, in just the last fucking year, you've got beyond around a Mount Rushmore of fucking dead rappers
Oh
who
yeah, that's true with
to
all
the
these young
new
guys.
generation
Yeah, it's
are
weird.
far more relevant to them than Tupac and Biggie were to
Hmm.
me, because these people died while they were following them, while they were watching them, while they were fans of them. You know, like, I mean, I have a glimpse of how they feel. And again, I liked all these new guys, but I wasn't a huge fan of any of them really,
And a lot of it's
except for
drug
Mac Miller, right? Like Mac
overdoses.
Miller, I was a really big fan of, and when he died, that really fucking hit me, you know.
Yeah.
So I think of all these kids who are, you know, younger and perhaps struggling with stuff, and somebody like a Juice World or a Triple X Tentacion dies, and like you listen to their music and it's very like emotional and relatable, and it's music that certainly would help a teenager get through some hard times. And so for me, I look at it like if Kid Cudi had died, you know, in the
Hmm.
prime of me getting into Kid Cudi, you know,
Hmm.
um somebody who I really related to and did really emotional. So it's like, I think people, because now so many of these rapper deaths have happened, it's just like, oh fuck, now it's like, who's next, you know? But I think it's, people aren't considering like the emotional impact that it might have on a lot of young people,
Hmm.
especially the ones that are dying tend to be with the exception of Pop Smoke, who really we didn't get to hear too much of him yet to
Yeah.
get to know his like personal side.
Hmm.
But Triple X and Mac Miller and Juice World and Lil Peep, um, all made
Yeah.
really emotional, introspective music that was like
Yeah.
relatable and fucking and presented in ways that we hadn't really heard before. So to a lot of these youngins, man, like they're bigger than Tupac and Biggie. You know, it's pretty
Yeah, those
wild.
are their guys. Those are their who they listen to. That's I know what you mean. It's crazy, but I mean, yeah, you hope their music does help with the people who are struggling or whatever. But you hear in the lyrics and their lifestyles, obviously, that the, you know, money, girls, drugs, partying, right? And then you have these accidental overdoses and stuff. You know, it's a lot of them are not the gun violence. Some of them are, but it's like issues within hip hop itself, right? The violence has always been an issue, right? Different things, um, but you hope collectively you can kind of get through it. But then again, it's not just hip hop. Mental health and, you know, drug addiction are not exclusive to rap music, but you just see a lot of
No,
it in there too.
it just happens to be popular at the same time, right?
Yeah.
It's going, and among the same age group, the same demographic. Unfortunately, you know, young
Hmm.
people is who is both making the popular rap music and listening to it and buying it. You know,
Hmm.
so, but yeah, you know, what's fucked up is like that. You know, you're right. It is a lot of these people end up overdosing and dying, and it's like, um, it's not at that point it doesn't become like you know, a lot of the people that I, again, a Kid Cudi, a Kanye West or whatever, while I was younger and looking up to these people, and even Eminem, they had a lot of problems and they had issues with substance abuse and mental health and all this stuff, right? But
Hmm.
their story is now them coming out of the other side, and like, you know, in
Hmm.
some cases differently than others, but them coming out the other side and finding their happiness and finding their peace and finding. And so I've personally gotten lucky to have good examples from the hip hop world, from in my generation, even like Nas and Jay-Z, like they've now come out of any sort of being in any sort of trouble, and they're just fucking, you know what I mean? They're proper, you know, beyond stars. They're national treasures, you know.
Yeah.
um, Whereas a lot of these young kids now who are getting into hip hop, they're never going to get to see their heroes come out the other side of their struggles, you know. Um, and who knows what kind of problems that's going to eventually cause, you know. It's
Hmm.
fucked up, especially when there are so many drugs and guns down there in the States, and there's drugs everywhere, but there they got
Yeah.
drugs and guns.
Are we due for another like conscious era in hip hop, or would you say that's already kind of emerging with a lot of artists?
Yeah, I'd say that there's been a conscious era emerging simultaneously with this crazy
Sure.
fucked up era, right? Like you have your everyone, the two prime examples is always Kendrick and J. Cole. But there's been, like, I know you're a huge big Absol fan, and
Yeah.
you know, me as well. And he, you know, we need him to come back. I think that would really get things
Yeah,
going again.
absolutely, man. I mean, he's like my favorite rapper, but honestly, I liked his mixtapes a little more than his albums. I still like the albums, but a lot of
Yeah.
rappers get that, right? They have an album deal and then it doesn't quite land how it should have, you know.
I think
Cannabis
that's
comes
why
to
he
mind for some
stopped, you
reason.
know. Yeah,
Mm.
Cannabis is like the first prime example of that. I think that's why he kind of stopped, you know, because yeah, his albums, I think, was what These Days and Do What Thou Wilt.
Absolutely, yeah. And then was there a third one?
Well, I don't know if you consider Control System an album, but I really
That was
love
my
Control
favorite one.
System.
I consider that
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know. I guess it's a
Yeah,
mixtape, but to
Control
me, it
System
doesn't.
was my favorite too. Like Control System and everything before that was fucking fantastic.
Mhm.
I know then there was These Days, which I was like, fuck, that's not as good. And Do What Thou Wilt, and I was like, you know, a little bit iffy with that one as well.
See, they were good, but the problem is, right, and you'd probably agree with this, that a lot of artists, when they make an album, they're either trying to be too safe or they're just trying to present an album that's marketable.
Yeah.
You know, it's maybe still try to keep his absol, his soul in it.
Mhm.
But when you do a mixtape, it's more freeform, and you can really just spit what you want, and the beats are
Yeah.
what you want. So it's not as tailored, and I like that better sometimes because what else do you want? You want that more raw stuff. So
Especially if somebody like him, man.
mhm,
He's done a couple good guest features lately, though, so
mhm,
hopefully maybe that's a sign that that he'll be back. But like, yeah, you look at somebody like Schoolboy got really popular, you know. So Absol's kind of like a conscious Schoolboy, like he kind of has a lot of the same quirks to him that make
mhm,
Schoolboy great, like with the vocal flexes and stuff like that.
mhm.
And when word choices, they're both really clever with their choices of words and stuff. So Schoolboy is just like a straight gangsta version of that.
Yeah,
Whereas Absol is like a so you know, Absol could be a great uh, gap bridger
yeah.
when it comes to like possibly bringing forth a slightly more conscious era that still kind of sounds commercially viable and shit, you know.
Mhm, mhm.
But Kendrick's kind of done a good job with that himself. So
Yeah, I'm happy that Kendrick made the mark he did. At least, you know, I remember when people were showing. I think it was like Drew who showed me Kendrick first, or someone, and like you were like, "Oh, yeah, this guy's dope," but you were like, "Is he gonna pop though? Like, what do people like this?" And then he just kind of
yeah,
went on a tear, and now
he's
he's
one
the
of
biggest thing to the young generation, which is good.
yeah, he's one of those that got what they deserved, you know, as far as being talented. And but you know, he stayed out of trouble and he didn't fucking, you know, he wasn't one of those that was constantly on TMZ and all this shit.
For
And
sure.
that's how it is
Yeah.
with like really, you know, respectable artists. There's always that. And that's what I think a lot of people who, and that's kind of like me as a rapper who's now a little bit older and still hasn't made it, so to speak. I kind of just want to now show younger people that want to be a rapper, like, it's not worth going the viral route or the TMZ route or whatever it is. Like, it may get you um, a lot quickly, but it's not ultimately. It could be long lasting, you know, if you're really good at that. Um, but ultimately, like, there's two routes you could take when it comes to making rap, and it's like you can try to like be an artist, or you can try to pop off by
TikTok
um,
videos or something.
yeah, doing whatever is going to go viral, you know, and that may work a fuck of a lot better these days, you know, and it does. And I'd be lying if
You
I
just got to
said it.
capitalize on it, right? Like that BB No Money
Hmm.
guy from Vancouver. Like he had a
Yeah,
TikTok jam, but he's good. Like
he
he
is
has
good. He
talent,
is good. And a
right?
lot of
And
these guys are good, right?
yeah,
But you would separate, but do you want to be that? Or do you want to be a Kendrick Lamar or somebody like that?
and I
And
think you can. I don't think you can want to be a Kendrick. I think you just have to be a Pac or Kendrick, right? You just
yeah,
that's who they are, right? I don't think anyone who's okay. Who am I gonna want to be? You're not gonna be anyone then, and you're just gonna. You can only be yourself, right? So for any rapper, any artist, or anything, you probably. I'm just kind of guessing. You know, you probably got to just be yourself because you can never.
yeah. No, absolutely. And it's becomes very clear when you're trying to be anything other than that.
Mhm.
But I think what I mean is, yeah, I guess you need to then decide what you are. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, I went through that myself. Like when I tried to do like that EU a fool, even though I did some like lyrical stuff, a lot of it was just sort of I'm gonna try to be catchy. I'm gonna go over commercial beats. I'm just gonna see what the fuck happens because I want to do live shows and I want to get the crowd hype and I want to just try to make some money off this, right? But then I reached a point where I was like, I can't continue. I'm running out of fucking ideas for this because it's not really me, you know. I'm just trying to, there's aspects of my personality there and stuff, 100%, you know. A lot of the like the wittiness to it came from my personality, but ultimately the music of it was not really me as a human being, you know.
Right. So
And
maybe
that,
just got to dial back a bit, right? Then that's it. Just like
yeah, and
come back
then
to, yeah.
present more of what I'm actually like feeling and stuff, you know, inside, you know, and that's kind of, I think, and that has enabled me to more find a sound that is uniquely me. And as it turns out, what I'm doing is probably not going to be anything that ever goes viral or ever pops off that way, but I still want to be example for people that like, hey, you can just be yourself and make really, really, you know, good stuff that could be relatable to somebody that may not be relatable to millions and millions of people, but it could be relatable to thousands one day, you know.
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter
That'd
the
be good.
size of it too. Like I know people always say that when you're from a small town, you know, us in the music scene, and people would, if they didn't understand it, they would maybe judge you or be like, "What are you guys wasting your time with? Like, you're never going to be famous, or do you make any money off this?" You know, it's like, does that all? Is that all people think about? Like, you have to get famous and make money. Like,
It
can you
is,
not work on a
unfortunately.
skill, and can you not have a fun
Yeah.
party with like 100 people and
You
rock a
know?
crowd? Like, it's dope. It's fun, and you see, I'm actually happy that there's all these young kids now in St. Catharines that do that shit. Then they have these shows like the warehouse and stuff and the falls, just different things that happen. There's a lot of different artists that are doing stuff, you know. And you like to see that because our era, or at least for me, I mean, I feel like my era a little bit past. Like we had a fun time with doing shows and stuff and making albums, but like now it's just for fun. Or if I'm making music, I'm trying to do like a song with an artist that's outside of the city or something. Like I've been
Yeah.
into Detroit music a lot lately, so I talked to some guys from there and try to work with you know, expand and do new types of stuff, and you know, so
Yeah, that's, you know, and again, that's the difference between trying to do it because you are trying to make money or trying to get famous versus just doing it because you are having a good time and you really enjoy doing it, you know. And that also is the difference, ironically, between trying to be somebody else and trying to be yourself, you know. When you're trying to get famous or rich, you're naturally gonna be like, pick a famous and rich person and I'm going to emulate that person, you know, and try to follow their path or whatever. But when you're being yourself, you're not thinking about anything. You're just kind of doing it because you do it, because that's what your being does, you know.
yeah, you're
I think the
unique.
results end up being more, you know, likable.
Yeah, you know, you got to be unique to stand out. And so whatever, if it's music or art or your work, whatever you're doing, you got to be yourself, showcase your own skills, your own talents, and you know, you'll shine in your little niche in the world, like you, because nobody else can be you, right? By definition, right? You're the only
Yeah,
one that can be you. So as long as you're you, then no one else can do what you can do. So
yeah.
they got to pay you for it,
Yeah, and to
right?
me that's like, that's the point of you know, of being an artist in a lot of ways, is like to present, to express you.
Yeah, here's my
uh
story. Here's what I went through. Here's how I
yeah,
deal with it. Here's what I like. Here's the humor I like. You know, blah blah blah.
yeah, whether you're a stand-up comedian or a painter, you know what I mean, you're basically just putting yourself out there. Otherwise you're you know, emulating somebody else or whatever.
Real
But
shit.
yeah, no, it's funny, like, you get the you know, are you making any money off this, or do you get paid, or how much do you, like, all the time I get that question, man, and it's just like, no, I have a job, like, you
Yeah,
know what I mean, it's not my job. I have a job that I get paid from, but in my spare time I like to make rap songs and rap videos and do shows and stuff.
yeah.
It's
What, you
fun,
think every rapper in the
you know.
world, you know, never had a job? They just started rapping, and then like a lot of rappers had day jobs, you know, and then
Oh, exactly,
clock
right.
out
And it's
and
just
make some
like,
music, and then go to the studio, and then
yeah, it's like I do it because I've just always done it, and you know what I mean. It's just what I do. It would be great to make money off it, and I'm of course always trying to think of ways to monetize it, because it would just be amazing to be able to. But it's not the number one thing, and it's funny how that ends up being the number one question on a lot of people's minds, who don't have an artistic endeavor of their own.
Yeah, they're just sometimes they don't understand it, or they're just jealous that you have a hobby. Maybe like who knows why people say things like that, but
People say all sorts of things.
they do.
They really, really do. Fuck, man, I don't know how long we've been going, but it feels like it's well, it doesn't actually feel that long, but I look at the clock, it looks like it's been at least an hour and change.
Yeah, I think we gave them some good content.
Yeah, we really did. Anything that you want to like plug or anything, like what's going
I
on,
don't know.
man?
Yeah, I got my Spotify mix. If you guys want to go on my Instagram, DEEKatello, you will see a link there on my bio to different things I got going on. I actually got one of those link tree things, so you'll see the Spotify mix for your relaxing vibes and your isolation. Then you got a track I did recently, stuff like that. You can check out all my stuff basically off my Instagram.
Which is
Oh, DEEKatello. So DEEK, and then like Donatello.
yeah,
DEEKatello.
DEEKatello.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Yeah, man. Listen to that quarantine mix and calm down a little. We're all feeling anxious. We're all feeling nervous. But yeah, my show, March 28th, as if I need to point it out, I don't think I do, is canceled due to COVID-19 concerns. So that's like, I think it should be tonight if I get this episode out on time. Tonight of when you may be listening to this. So that's canceled. So don't go to that. Other than that, if you go to shroomworld.ca, you want to order some mushrooms, you can use the promo code CHOOMGANG. Get yourself, I think it's 10% off your first order on some mushrooms. They got microdose tablets too. They're pretty cool.
Well, I might take you up on that offer.
Yeah, check that out. shroomworld.ca. Aside from that, my latest work is on smarturl.it/pilotboy, Ezza 905, and once again, DEEKatello on Instagram and Twitter.
Dude,
thank you,
man.
man. Thank you so much, bro. I wanted you in the first 3, but didn't work out. Now we're in quarantine, so but I'll probably get you again pretty soon, man. Because
sounds good.
My fucking pool of guests is getting thinner already. So especially now that you need to be a little bit tech savvy to do it. So I appreciate you getting a little set up and getting it together for me, man. I really appreciate it, and we'll do it again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
Much love, bro.
Later.
Yeah, man. Stay safe out there.
You too.
To take a plane to another plane, to another plane, to another plane, bumping back and not nice while I'm trapping in the rain.